We're back in Unreal Engine, the good old home base of game development for me. Godot, anybody who's seen the last stream, I've kind of given up on Godot because we ran into some issues, and I also kind of want to give 2D in Unreal a fair shot because it might suck even more, and I want to figure out if it does. So, for reference, in the plugins here, I have both the Paper 2D, which is the Epic Games official. I said this was discontinued, and Paper ZD was just a community upkeep version of it. That apparently is not exactly the case. It seems like Paper 2D is still kind of abandonware at this point. It seems like Epic is not really developing it. Things like tile sets have been experimental features and prone to crashing for about 2 or 3 years now, so it very much seems abandoned. Paper ZD is just something that takes that and develops onto it. But this, technically speaking, is not removed from the engine. It's not deprecated or anything. It's just abandoned. As, to be fair, a lot of things in Unreal Engine tend to be. They just get abandoned and never actually finished. Looking at your game playability system. So that's how we're going to go with this. I watched a couple of short videos as an overview to see how Paper 2D and Paper ZD work, and it seems like it might be a little bit annoying because it is, specifically Paper ZD, is very much set up for you to be able to easily make side-scrolling games with it. We have a top-down perspective 2D game, so we're probably going to have to do a lot more stuff ourselves. So hopefully today, throughout this first stream, we're going to be able to set up a decent amount of what we had going in Godot. Presumably it's going to be a lot faster because we already talked a lot about the design of things. I know this engine does help. So let's just get right into it. I have a folder with resources right here. So let's how are we gonna order this, right? I guess we have character. Let's make a folder for sprites, and in there we're gonna make a folder for character sprites. And right now that's only the one tile sheet that I have, which is, let me try and figure out what that is. Where did I put that? In a sprite? Yeah, there we go. Player. So we can just import that, and that will give us a texture with all this. I think we can now right click on it, and in sprite actions we can apply Paper 2D texture setting. So that just turns it into a Paper 2D available thing. So it now uses point filtering, probably, yeah. 2D pixels, so unfiltered. It probably uses the alpha channel and stuff like that. So that's really nice that it comes with that. And for now, I think that is the most important bit. Also, hello Kiwi Kingdom. Nice to have you hanging out in my misery during this stream. So then we also have sprites for the world object. So let's call this object sprites. And that will mostly just be at the moment the chest, which we're also going to set to a Paper 2D. Again, that means that it's going to be point filtered really, really nicely. And the last thing we have at the moment is my tile map, which I'm going to make a new folder for tile maps just to keep organized, even if it's only going to have one PNG in it. So this will be the tile map, which again we set up as a Paper 2D texture set. And that is all our assets imported. I also should point out that I have installed Rider. So I'm using Rider right now. We're going to see how I like it. So far, added in code is added in code. I don't have Copilot installed for this yet, I just realized. So we're gonna have to do without Copilot, which is fine. I have set up, and I have never actually bothered to do this in Visual Studio, but I have it set up now so that I have like 2 windows here. It would be really nice if I could like automatically set it up for like .h files to be added to these tabs and .cpp files to be added to these tabs. It's not that big a deal, but if anybody knows if that is possible, do let me know, because that way I would be very easily able to just, when I'm working on a CPP file, I've already found the shortcut key for opening the corresponding header file is just like Alt-O, and it opens the corresponding header file, and the same with the CPP file. So having those side by side will be very nice. Aside from that, I guess we're gonna run into like what makes Rider Unreal so good. I know that it will be able to like display some blueprint information. I'm not 100% up to speed on what exactly it can do. Okay, just get in. I also want to be able to play with Godot more. Are you planning to try new engines, or you're just getting to Unreal Engine? It's the other way around. I mainly use Unreal Engine. I tried Godot. I had some issues. And now we're back in Unreal. Maybe, I'm thinking after we finish this project up, I'm not going to immediately go in and remake it in another engine, but maybe we could make this like a yearly thing, right? Every like year I try to remake this same game in like a different engine. So maybe next year we try it in Game Maker, and then maybe the year after we try it in Unity, if Unity still exists at that point, which it probably will. And so on and so forth. That could be a fun thing, but for now we're just like moving from Godot, which was the idea, to try out Godot. I ran into some problems, and now we're just moving back into Unreal because I do want to actually like make this. I used Rider a while back. I really liked it. It's great. Just couldn't afford it. That sucks. That sucks. It is not free, so that is a like major sticking point for a lot of people. I very much get that. And to be fair, I myself am like, am I really like? It's got a month to impress me. To the point where I'm like, yeah, I want to pay, like, I think it's only like $7 a month or something from what I understand. So like the barrier of entry for me to pay for that isn't that high, but it is still like paying money for something that like it needs to be significantly better as an experience on Visual Studio Code, which we'll see. So for now, let's make this into, we can use this, I think, to make a extract sprite. There we go. So in here we can set the spacing to grid, and there we can say the cell width. I think these are 32 by 32, and that will extract the sprites for me. So now we have like individual sprites for every single one of those frames, which is really quite nice. I can select them all and then add selection and property matrix. I did hear that you want to change the pivot points to, because now it's pivoting from the center. We want to pivot from the bottom center, I'm guessing. So let's do that. And now the pivot point should be at bottom center. So that's probably a little bit better. Do it, get Rider. Visual Studio isn't made to work with Unreal Engine. Rider actually understands Unreal. I've heard like people say that, but the one thing that I have seen so far is that if you and we'll run into this in a moment once we start to actually like program. The one thing I've seen so far is that inside of your C++ classes, it can read if a blueprint class that derives from this like uses or overrides values or functions, which is really nice. But I like, if that's the extent to it, I don't know if that's like worth money necessarily, because that seems very limited. There's probably a lot more that I haven't run into yet, though. So yeah. let's keep going with this. So I think we can use this as like we have player sprites 0. Let's call this idle down instead, because we just have. Should I make? I don't know how this will work. I guess we'll figure this out in a moment. Because this is going to be an animation, which is a flipbook. So this will be a player walk down, I suppose. And that will be like very fast at the moment because it's playing at 15 frames per second. I think we had it at like 4 frames per second in Godot. So we're going to stick with something like that. Yes. And then this is player sprite. Like, the one thing that I want to know is for like we'll figure this out in a moment. But for using these in like an animation blueprint, there's a specific like paper ZD animation blueprint that takes in like these animations instead of normal animation sequences. Can it also just take in static sprites? Or do I need to turn this sprite into a 1 frame long animation? I guess we're going to figure that out in a moment. Player, what did I call the other one? Yeah, let's keep actually with the name convention of keeping sprites in it. Idle side. And then we have these two. Oh, yeah, that's actually a thing, isn't it? Because I also want this one in there. Player walk side. Okay, so now how can I manually like add more frames to this or something? Because I this is obviously not what we want. Like, clearly not. Add keyframe, I guess, and then can we like click on this and then give it like a value on which. How does this work? Can I just drag that in there? I can just kind of drag that in there. Okay. Can I remove this keyframe? I can. So we place this. Hold on. I just want to see this 1 frame at a time. Yeah, and then we duplicate and move that to the back, and that creates our side walking animation. Okay. VS Code is a joke. VS is a pain. Writer is just right. I'm curious to see how Writer is going to improve my experience. Sounds really cool. Everybody that I've heard about it is like very, very positive on it. So, I'm not sure if it's twist. Are you using Paper ZD? Yeah, I'm using Paper ZD. I got it up the marketplace because, frankly, at first I thought Paper ZD was a replacement for Paper 2D, but it just like built upon it. 400% more Visual Studio issues. Yeah, Writer just works, as well as automatic feedback for blueprint usage with CPP. So yeah, that is quite nice. I can't say that I've personally experienced like a lot of issues with Visual Studio and Unreal. So I'm probably not going to feel that difference. Make sure you install the UE plugin within Writer. I do have that. It automatically installed it once it saw that Unreal existed on my system, I think. I didn't have to install it. It just came with it. I don't know how. I don't know why. I'm assuming that it, again, just detected Unreal on my system. Yeah, and use the Writer U project type for fast interaction. Okay, so I maybe need to look into that. There's a keyframes array on the in the details that I can expand. Oh, there is. There totally is. Oh, that is amazing. This is just one sprite. Why is this just one sprite? Oh, this is idle side. Why did I make this as an animation? I don't think I need that as an animation. But still, that is really nice to know. That's a lot easier than dragging stuff in, just being able to like add in new keyframes there. Okay, cool. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm just trying to make sure that I name things properly. So this is idle up, which brings this up to create flipbook player walk up. Again, everything is just going to happen at 4 frames per second because fuck it. And that's it, because the other side walking is just this one, but flipped. So yeah, that's kind of it. Depends on how much CPP you use. I would say about 60% of what I do is C++. You'll eventually realize its power. Yeah, I'm sure I will. But I've also... Thanks for the follow. I've also, like, really... Like, aside from being able to see, like, oh, this value is not used by Blueprint, maybe don't expose it, right? Which is nice to have, but that's like, again, I don't know if that's all the hype. So we're just going to get into it, and we're going to see if I like it, which I probably will. Like, if nothing else, I just like the UI, which is like a really vain thing to praise it for, but I like the way this looks. Like, it is clean and sleek, which is kind of nice. I like that about it. Again, it's not an important thing to really praise, but okay, so now there's a couple more people watching. I'm going to ask this question again, because I asked at the very beginning. Does anybody know if there is a proper way to, when I open up an H file, like a header file, that it pops up in a tab on the left side here, and when I open up a CPP file, to force it to open up on the right? Because that would be kind of nice. I just made 2 classes here quickly, test actor, test character. We're not actually going to use these. But just to like set up my environment here. And it just automatically everything opens up on the right or on the currently active window. I don't know. But it would be nice if I opened something up that it would just like sort them in properly. Chat's going real fast today. Paper CD, love it. I hope that I will. I'm a little nervous about it, not gonna lie. Not that I know of. Okay, that's too bad. Sounds like a GPT question. I've asked it on Google. I've Googled it, but it doesn't seem to be a thing. But you know, people. Answers on Google don't necessarily mean that's like not a thing that is possible always. So it's kind of, I figured maybe if it is possible, there's some people that use Writer in here, maybe that will come up, but apparently not. Okay, so let's start by making ourselves like an animation blueprint. There's a specific Paper ZD animation thing. Like if I just Paper ZD character. We're not going to be using this because it's for side scrolling, and it's definitely not what we would want to do. Blueprint core, blueprints, Paper ZD, and then blueprint. So yeah, they have a specific animation blueprint for Paper ZD character so that it can use all these animations, I think. So let's call this AnimBP player. And I think I need to do like 1 or 2 more things about setup. I don't know why it is like taking a moment to load blueprints whenever I open them. That's a little weird. Usually don't have that. But don't really care at the moment. We'll probably be fine. Okay, let's see. Where did I put this? Sprites. Character sprites. There was also another thing here in Paper. I think Paper 2D. Is it in Paper ZD? It's in Paper ZD. So we can make a... I think it's called animation source. So let's call this anim src player. And this turns flipbooks into animation sequences is the idea, right? So can I just, $1 million question, can I just drag and drop those? No, you can't. But you can just make one and call this player down, walk. Let's keep the naming conventions the same, player walk down. And then it is as simple as just picking a flipbook from here, right? Yeah, so we can just add new. Player walk side without spaces, obviously, and that should then also automatically be creating animation sequences that I can actually properly use, from what I understand. So player walk up. It seems like though, if I want to have those idle frames be accessible in my animation blueprint, maybe I do need to make like just 1 frame long animations of those sprites, which is fine. It's just like a little double trouble. Your video is super delayed from chat. Yeah, that's just kind of YouTube being YouTube. That's not really something I can influence, I'm afraid. So yeah, there's probably like a good 20-30 seconds delay between something happening on my screen and it actually going out to people. But there is a Twitch. Oh, and there's also the restream, which probably adds like a slight delay into it as well, I would imagine. But I guess maybe Twitch is a little bit more up to date. I don't know. Don't forget that you can set key events that the player sequencer in that animation source. Let's check that out. Is that just like animation notifies and stuff you can just add here? That's what you mean, right? Or is there something else that I should be doing? What is a multi-directional sequence? If true, multiple animations sources can be added to the sequence at different angles. Used where need to represent multiple rotations. So I'm guessing that we can actually use that for like the side version. And this is then... How the fuck does that even work? Gee, what? I might just flip that in code instead of doing this, to be honest with you. Because this is a little... Yeah, oh, and then I need to make... Yeah, I'm just going to flip that through the code. I think that makes more sense for me. Okay. There should be... There's no animation graph here. I was told that there would be an animation graph here. Why is there no animation graph here? Because we need to support an animation source? No, I just can't add anything there. Well, there's a friggin' great start, isn't it? Let's close those down. And double check here. So this parent class is paperzd animation blueprint. Yeah. New graph, yeah, no, that's not really gonna do what I needed to do, is it? Class defaults, maybe? Editing this value in a class object is not allowed. Would you care to explain why? It's called paperzd anim instance, but I think that's what I have, right? But there might be just a way that I can do it through. Yeah, so this. Oh, that's why. Okay. So you can't just make it through the blueprint menu. You have to make it through there because it prompts you with linking it to a animation source. Okay. Anim BP ZD player, and then we're gonna just remove this other one. Because this doesn't have it from the same parent class. No, it is different. It is different. That is my bad. So you probably can make it the other way as well. Okay. Then the question becomes, we have the animation sequences here. So we can say like walk that. Can we not drag and drop these? Cannot create components from assets in non-blueprint actor. Play animation. Yeah, so we have play. That'll work for me. Okay, so we have walk to the side. Please tell me that we have a flip for this. Or a mirror. We'll look into that in a moment. And walk down. I guess that means that we do have to turn these other ones into flip books as well for the idle animations. That's just like 1 frame long each. We can kind of do that. That's fine. I'm going to have to organize this a little bit better in a moment because it's getting a little messy already. For 1 step at a time. A new animation. So this will be player idle down. I'm just going to make the animations first and then we'll give them their values. Player idle side. And then player idle up. This is idle down. I suppose the frame rate for these doesn't really matter, does it? Because it's just a 1 frame. So that'll be fine. Leave idle up. If I'm skipping like a step here, and it is possible to just use a sprite to blend here, like can we just like make brush from sprite? I don't think that's what we want. I don't think we can just put in a sprite here that's not an animation sequence, can we? It's very difficult for me to memorize blueprint programming. I constantly have to look back at tutorials, documentation. Should I quit it? Any advice? I mean, if you just keep doing it, at some point you'll start remembering it. And if you don't, that's okay too. I would argue that like understanding like programming patterns and like understanding the reasoning why you do things and understanding how you set up like systems of code is way more important than being able to remember the exact name of a node or like a function if you're using C++. So like while I don't fully agree with this statement, there is this like sentiment that at a certain point, once you've learned like a basic amount of programming, the main thing setting apart a good programmer from a bad programmer is just the like ability to Google things. And I do think that that is like slightly not true, but I also think that it kind of like there is a kernel of truth in there, right? It's just nobody's going to be able to remember everything about like every environment that they work with. So yeah, you're gonna read documentation. That's what it's there for. That said though, I guess that means that we have to add in, this probably should be a state machine. Actually, do we have like states machine? Add new state machine? That's probably Locomotion. Yeah, that's really, that's a good way to put it, right? Because programming in its entirety is just problem solving. And when your brain can do the problem solving, like the exact words that you need to put on a page to solve the problem is a thing that you can look up. And a thing that you probably shouldn't spend too much brain power trying to like memorize everything just in your brain. It is the ability to come up with how to solve the problem in the first place. That is the most relevant thing. Okay, so we have an animation state. And I suppose this is just like, what is this out? Okay, so I'm gonna bitch here for a moment. Hold on, I need to enable zoom it. I'm going to bitch you for a moment, but this is called the out node. And I kind of understand why, maybe. But this seems to be the input of the state machine that then goes into, well, the state machine to choose what state happens. So, out implies to me that we go this direction. It's a very minuscule, bitchy little thing. So I don't really care too much. So how are we going to set this up easily? I suppose what we do is we have a idle state. Can we make a substate machine? Does it just come with it? It just comes with jump. What even does that mean? Is this how we... I haven't set up state machine in a while. But I guess this is the most logical way to do it, idle directions, right? So we have idle, which runs its own state machine on what direction it needs to face in, and then we have oh yeah, of course. So this goes two ways between idle and movement. This feels like a little bit of an over-engineered way to do it, I'm gonna be honest with you. Movement direction. I would agree. Say true programming classes. No one knows a joke since I believe, of course, magically teach them how to code. That's kind of yeah. With logic and basic knowledge, anyone can start. That's pretty much it. If your brain is functional and you have an internet connection, you're pretty much good to start, I would say. It's not going to be necessarily easy. Learning to understand how computers think can be a pain. Okay, so then we have our idle directions, and that's then... I don't know if there should be a state machine, man. Does it even make sense to make it into a state machine? In all honesty, I think it might just literally make more sense to... Can we blend on enum or something? Because if we just make an enum for direction and then check whether or not we're moving, I think that makes a little bit more sense for our locomotion than making two substate machines like that. But maybe we can't do that, so let's stick with this, I suppose. So there's up idle. That's not what I wanted to do. This will be down idle. Left idle, and here we get into... Oh, we probably can flip them in the... I say that, but let's maybe not. But I'm assuming that we do want to make this, so make it work this way. Because the thing that I'm thinking about, right, is to make this a state machine, what we're going to have to do, so we're going to have two-way links between every single one of these states, and that is just a fucking mess. Because it looks something like this. And I'm not entirely sure that I like the way this looks. I feel like, number one, we probably want to split these up a little bit further apart so that all the icons don't overlap so much. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. This seems like an over-engineered way to do it. Is there an animation cache in PaperZD animation blueprint? I'm assuming that there is. But that is actually a good question. Can we cache this? Yeah, we can cache an animation. That's not a problem. Okay, so let's actually keep this to the side for now, because yeah, the more I think about it, the stupider that ID seems. That's a play random sequence. That's definitely not what we want. Play sequence. Is there not like an empty node that I can... Okay, play, player, idle, down. I think we kind of just want to blend this. Can we make a blend space? That's a good question. Can we like make a blend space that has like a constant value or something like that? Instead of actually making a blend space. You could make separate state machine for each state. Then make them something like a master state machine where you blend between the states. Yeah, that is kind of what I have right now. This is just a locomotion, and there I have an idle state and a movement state, and the idle state itself has a state machine for all the directions. But I feel like doing this through a state machine is clunky. And maybe not entirely necessary. Because like half the power of a state machine is that you can program it such that you can move from one state into another. Into another. But the idea behind like this locomotion thing is that I can move from any of these states into any of the other states, including any of the movement states. So it seems like I'm just adding extra steps for no good reason, so I don't think that's a great idea. I guess we can blend by integer? Can I then, like, can I keep adding more to this? Select between two animations to blend by int. No. So maybe we do need to do this on a state machine. Sure. Actually, I do want to keep these. Up idle. I know we have this set up anyway, we might as well, right? Because we can just copy this over and put it in the other state machine, just switch out the animations and we'll be fine. So this is player idle side. That is already facing right. Yes, it is. And then for the left idle, I probably should place them in the proper orientations as well. I want to mirror this, right? So can I like flip or mirror? Is there a way for me to do that? I guess we can just look into animation, set directionality. That's for multi-directional sequences. Yeah, okay. So that is just the way you do that, isn't it? That is what I'm looking for. Okay, so no, that does make more sense then. Doing it that way. Okay, so let's set that up then. So we, instead of having this idle up, left side down, what we get is we just make a new animation sequence here, and this is player idle. Becomes multi-directional, and then at like what do these values mean though? Okay, so this is the amount of directions we have, and then I guess we have like an angle. Okay, sure. Is this... I don't know. This feels kind of clunky to work with, but I suppose this is like a constant value, so as long as I'm inside of this quarter, it will put in the animation that I put here. So this will be like idle up. And then, yeah, the moment I enter this quarter, that's actually kind of nice. That's actually kind of nice because you can add multiple directions. If you have like a directional movement, you can add a direction. If you have 16 directional movement, you have 16 directions. If you want to go absolutely insane and have like 360 movement and have a stupid amount of sprites, I suppose you could theoretically then do that. That is quite nice. So that is down idle. So now the only question that I have is, can I like get this like sidewalk like left? Is there anything in this flip book that I can say, hey, mirror this? Flip the whole character in Blueprint. That doesn't seem like a great way to do it. Although I suppose that would also... We also like would then have something for like a forward vector that we can use. So that would still be kind of nice. But it also feels like I then have to flip it back if I start moving up and down, which is not that difficult to do. But if we have a better way to do it here, that would be nice. I think sprites are filled with moving flipped. Flipped is just a sprite, I mean. I mean, yeah, but if there's a way to just do that through here, I think that is a lot less messy to do. But it doesn't seem like there's an easy way to do it, unless what I do is I go in here and flip it in here. Rendering, render geometry. You're not telling me that a plugin that is supposed to like support 2D sprite based stuff doesn't then allow you to flip a fucking sprite? You have the UVs, right? So I can... Oh, no, that's not how that works. Yeah, that might be a thing. I don't think it's a good idea to flip it in here instead of character blueprint. If I can flip it in here instead of the character blueprint, I promise you that is a better idea. So I think it is worth looking into. Because if I can make an animation sequence that just flips it, it can very easily slot into... like into this multi-directional animation thing that I have somewhere around here. Which one was it again? Like one of these we had the directionality thing set up for. This one, right? So we have like this. If I can just have an animation sequence that is this one, but flipped, we just have it baked in here. That is a lot less bothersome than doing it through like Blueprint or through code. So that is why I'm spending some more time trying to figure out whether or not I can flip this. Let me actually quickly Google this, because this seems like an issue that, again, other people have run into. Unreal Paper 2D flip sprite. Okay, so these people are flipping it through Blueprint.
This video.
This guy uses like a Paper Mario kind of flip. That's not exactly... Yeah, so he just rotates them 180 degrees around the sprite. So everybody does seem to use like that relative rotation, but I think that is... I don't like that. Let's specifically look for Paper ZD, whether or not they have an implementation for this. Like, worst case scenario, I think it is still more worth it to re-export the sprites and just add flipped sprites to it. But it would be nice if I can just use the same source sprites and flip them in engine. I mean, this guy's even just setting the flip books through Blueprint itself. Yeah, I don't like that. Maybe I shouldn't look for flip, because that gets me things about flip books. Maybe I should be looking for mirroring. Is it possible to mirror an imported sprite? That is what I need to know. Not familiar with sprites, so maybe you don't comment. Okay, I mean, that is a pretty like massive issue right off the bat, in my opinion. Well, I don't know if I want to call it massive, but it is like annoying. But you need to do this to each animation state. Yeah, that is true. But I mean, both ways have issues, right? Unreal just released super woke regulations that will destroy streaming culture. Delete Unreal. Hey, how about you get a timeout, because we're not dealing with that bullshit again. What's the issue with flipping the character blueprint? Because I want to be able to, like, we have this directionality, right? Like this paper ZD offers you the ability to just like put a couple of different animations within like one animation state and pass in a directionality to automatically update this, and that's just dramatically going to simplify the animation blueprint itself. So that's why I want to do it that way. So I guess what we do is I just real quick re-export it. You could have 3 ends in this directional. I don't. I think you can. That's true. But then this doesn't line up anymore, like with the proper directions. Like I have 4 directions, so this needs to be 4. I suppose this could just. Yeah. I mean, I could just put this in here again, and when I'm moving left, flip my character sprite. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah, let's just do that instead of re-exporting, because I don't know how that's going to impact like the spacing of my sprites. That might be more annoying to deal with at this point. You guys have a point. Yeah, you guys have a good point. So this would be then, I think it's like player idle. And then like set directionality. And then we can blend by bool. So we copy this over. We kind of remove all of these. And then copy this over, and we call this player walking. And here we just go from flipbook idle up to like a walking up. This will be walking to the side. This will be walking down. And this will also be walking to the side. And we'll just flip this in code. Still don't love it, but at the moment I think this does make the most sense. So where the fuck did our blueprint go? Our animation blueprint? Oh, that's quite nice. The fact that you can toggle back and forth between the two of them, like that. I like that. Okay, so this is now player walking, and then we can like blend these by bool. So we have our value in for is walking or not. Which really is just get owner and get velocity. And if the vector length is just greater than 0, I guess we should normalize this. Does that matter? If we move in a negative direction, is the vector length going to be negative? I don't really remember. Let's just, to be sure, let's just normalize this first. I don't know if that... Does anybody in chat happen to know off the top of their head if vector length is always a positive number? Because I feel like it might be. Like, this is the kind of math stuff that I... This is the kind of thing that I'm like, yeah, no shit, needing to remember this kind of stuff. Maybe try to set it with 3 ends and angle. I don't think that's going to work out too well, though, because you run into the issue where, if we go back to animations, if this is like 3 ends and I angle it, like, how are we going to do it in such a way that the up is still the up and the, like, they're not going to blend properly based on the angles anymore. So I think we do want to have 4, and then did I just fuck myself? I kind of did. So I do think that this is the way that we probably want to do it. How was Godot? Godot was an adventure. Don't think you need to normalize. Yeah, I didn't think so either. You know what? Let's take out the normalization, and if this ends up screwing us, we'll know to put it back in. But I don't think we need it either. I think this already gives us an absolute value. Okay, now we need a vector 2 input for the actual inputs. And we need a character. Maybe we should focus on starting coding the character? Late by now, what did I miss? Just me trying to get familiar with how to set up sprites, honestly. Not that much interesting stuff going on here. So let's, just for reference purposes, I'm going to make a paper ZD character blueprint. So paper ZD ref character, because I want to know what the components are called. This is kind of what it comes down to. So we have a normal capsule component. And this is kind of what we get into, right? Because everything Unreal does is still in 3D, which is going to be rendering 2D sprites. Like perpendicular, parallel, perpendicular to the camera. Anyway, so we have an arrow component, and then we just have a sprite component. And on that sprite component, I don't think we need to set anything. I think what we do is we have like this animation component, right? Which is a what is that called? Paper ZD animation component class, paper ZD animation component. Okay. And there we put in our animation instance class, which I am supposing would be this. It's not looking particularly good so far. And that then renders to the sprite components. Except that it doesn't. I don't think. Maybe the sprite is just too damn small? No. Maybe it's because there's a 0, 0. So let's just unhook a couple of things real quick to see if that... Oh, that doesn't really do anything. Okay, so at least we have a reference for its size now. That's kind of nice. I think we should just keep everything at a size of 1. And just change the capsule accordingly, instead of sizing everything up to fit the capsule. Yeah, let's do that. So that kind of works. Snapping. There we go. And then I guess since this is the forward vector, we probably want to have it facing that way. I don't know if that matters. We'll figure that out eventually, I'm sure. Is this a 2D plugin? Yes, this is Paper 2D combined with Paper ZD, which is quite fun so far. Kind of. Except the fact that this just doesn't... It just doesn't. Oh, hold on. That's because I put all of this in left idle. That's why. Okay, no, that's on me. That should just straight up be an animation graph. So this will probably now work. So let's take all this stuff and put it in the root for the animation graph as well. We're going to keep this locomotion around just in case for a moment, but I think this should now, even if I disable this, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't show in the preview of the viewport. Maybe we just straight up need to put this in there. It's not what I want to do. If I simulate this, does it like play? Okay, so if I simulate this, it actually does what I wanted to do. It's kind of annoying that it doesn't give that visual in the preview. I also have no idea why it is playing the walking animation. But that's probably because I hooked these up the wrong way around. So walking is when this is false. Yeah, no, okay, so they are just hooked up the wrong way around. And I need to... These are going to be linked up to like your input variables or your... I guess your velocity makes the most sense, right? So if we take the velocity and like break vector and then make vector 2D out of those. It probably actually has a conversion for that, right? Yes, it does. So this is just going to take the Z out of it, which is potentially an issue. Yeah, okay, so we need to start thinking about how this should work. Are we going to use the Y and the Z value? Meaning that like everything is going to happen on a plane like this? Or we're going to use the X and the Y value, meaning that everything is going to be happening on a plane like this. It's a damn good question. And I'm not entirely sure what the answer will be. In my mind, XY makes more sense. Mostly because things like the position and things like the velocity, this is just going to take the Z value out of it, right? So if we just take this and we make sure that everything we're doing is in X and Y, just entirely ignoring the Z, that makes a lot of this programming related stuff probably a lot smoother to work with. So I think that's what we're going to be doing. It's strange why engine needs a 2D plugin when the engine is originally a 2D engine. I don't think Unreal is originally a 2D engine. I mean, Unreal, as far as I know, was originally made for Unreal Tournament, which was a first-person shooter. Very much a 3D game. Right? Or was there anything before Unreal Tournament that Unreal was made for? ZZT 1991 and Jill the Jungle 1992. Huh, okay. Don't know. Didn't know that. In Sprite, I said it's temporary. Source flipbook is idle. I don't think it's that important. Paper ZD has a lot of neat quality of life improvements. Like the sorry state of 2D in Unreal Engine very much implies like Unreal's not made for 2D. Like even all this stuff happening, right? We'll see when we get into tile maps. It calculates everything in 3 dimensions. It's still like everything is happening in 3D. And technically, that also holds true for an engine like Unity, I believe. But at least like the Unity has like a 2D interface where you can say, I'm working on a 2D game. I don't want to bother with like being able to even see this in 3D. I just want this as like a 2D orthographic view. Which is much more suited to 2D. So if Unreal was originally developed to develop 2D games, that has long since been removed because the engine itself is just not designed to make 3D games with. Or 2D games with, because it is very 3D oriented. Which is why I expect this to somewhat be a pain. To be like 100% clear. Okay, so maybe we can actually just use the character ZD still. I mean, it has a character movement component. But the thing is, right, what we're probably going to end up doing is right now, our sprites... I'm going to just put in an idle sprite here for reference purposes because it is bullshit that it doesn't give you that. So what we'll probably end up doing is we're going to like rotate this by 90 degrees. And do something like this instead. Because we're going to be looking at it from the top on. At which point, there is a real question to be asked about, should we be using... Yeah, now we're going to make our own character class, I think. Because I don't want to use the capsule component if we're going to be doing it like this. We probably should use a box component for the collision. What do you write at a 3D character? Well, it's north to the right. It's a side scroller. The creator does not want to make Paper ZD native to Unreal and then work onto the aspects of the engine. I mean, that's fair enough for Paper ZD, which is a community plugin. That doesn't really excuse the fact that Epic themselves do fuck all about this. Being able to like do 2D properly in Unreal. So yeah, I don't know if like this way of doing it is going to be the way we want to do it. But for now, let's start making a like a pawn class. I suppose we're going to be doing all our movements entirely like custom, right? So we don't need character movement in any way, shape, or form. So we're not really missing out on anything. Shopkeeper. Let's just call it shopkeeper. And create that class. So yeah, here we go. When I make a new class, it adds them both to the right hand side there. And I very much would prefer it if I could. This is just me getting used to. Do I put it in there? Okay, so I put it in there. $1 million question. Because the one thing that I do keep running into with VS Code is that whenever I make a new class, VS Code fucking shits itself. And it doesn't recognize it. Does this have the same issue? We'll see in a moment. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to make a U property. God damn it. U property, which will be added defaults only. At least it's giving the IntelliSense for this a little bit better than VS Code so far, so that's good. And this will be a... Is it called like U Sprites component or something like that? I gotta check out what the name for the Sprite component is. Hold on one goddamn moment. Sprite is a paper flipbook component. You know what? We can deal with that. So that's probably still a U paper flip. Why is it not recognizing that? Okay. So don't start with U because that would be bad. Paper flip book components. Okay, this is kind of bullshit. So what is this called? Is it is called kind of makes sense. It's called paper 2 U paper flip book components. It doesn't recognize that still. Which is probably because we need to... That's why it doesn't recognize it. It needs to be in the includes. Can we just forward declare this in here? Probably can just forward declare that, right? Which we'll call sprites. Unable to find class with the name. So, do I need to include it here? Why does this... Oh, I understand. We need to add it in the modules. Oh, where does that file live again? God damn it, I always forget. Is it in... I'm just gonna Google this. It's gonna be quicker than trying to find it manually. Unreal C++ modules. Where does that file exist? Yeah, okay. It's in the where even is all my own code? I think it's in here, and then source. Then we have this one. Extra modules. Okay, so what is the paper 2D module called? Unreal paper, and probably also the paper ZD, right? Paper 2D module. Probably just called paper 2D or something. Might as well include UMG right away, actually. because we're going to use that in a moment as well. And then it's just called paper 2D, it seems like. So paper 2D. Why are you giving me squigglies? Oh, because they need to be listed in an array like that, but not within the not within these. We're gonna get there. That should have done it, I think. Am I in the wrong file? I think I'm in the wrong file. This is extra module names. Yeah, I'm in the wrong file. That explains a lot. Still though, we are going to want to add these two modules in a moment once I find the right file. So is it just target CS? Extra module names. Now what I want is public dependency module names, I think. Is anybody in chat now? It's build CS, isn't it? Yeah. I thought so. I thought so. But where is that? Oh, there. Okay. So we have our public dependency and private dependency module range. Okay, so this is what I was looking for, because this already has core and core UObject, engine, input core, enhanced inputs, and then we just add UMG and paper 2D to this. And now that we have that, we can close these C# files. And we might need to build for it to be able to pick this up now. Maybe. Unchanged asset. So it does seem to recognize this now. It's just this include still is fucked, but so it does still need that include. What are you complaining about? Add reference to module paper 2D in Control plus to apply. That's definitely Control plus period to apply. Oh, it also needs to be in the privates. You would assume that if it is added here, it's also good enough for the private ones. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it's still bitching about this, though. So did it just add it again? It just added it again. Oh, the generator needs to be the last include. You're entirely correct. It's still bitching. Right of the text naming conventions. Solution of the fucking sure. Try building. Yeah. Let's try building. Make sure that everything here is saved. I think it is just this button, right? Oh yeah, that include is gonna fuck it up. Remove this include for now, and then try building. F5. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so that's probably just like a syntax thing here. Extra module names. That's because okay, that's fair. F5. That's a lot smoother than the like Control Alt Shift B that I'm used to. Oh yeah, we need to multi-line comment. Thank you very much. There we go. Just comment that out for now. Okay, so everything is built. Let's see if we can now include paper 2D. Is that what we were trying to include before as well? Oh, it also opens up the engine. That's quite nice. Did we have like a different include a moment ago? Yeah, flipbook paper component is what we were trying to include a moment ago. Which is grayed out because we're not using it. But the moment we uncomment this, that should stop screaming about that maybe. Does it turn out to just be U paper flipbook component? I think it is just U paper flipbook component, which makes me a lot less upset. The fact that it doesn't start with paper U paper. Okay. Yeah, so now we have the module included. That's always a little bit of a pain to set up. Then we also want a U property for the collision box. So that is added defaults only. Class U, like, what is it? U box component, right? It's been a while since I've done this. Pointer, collision box. Is there anything else that we particularly need at the moment? I don't know that there is. Oh no, we do need that animation component. Hold on, which means that we're going to need to include that paper ZD thing probably as well. But we had that specific other component here, right? The paper ZD animation component. So I'm guessing that we need to go back in here and say, hey, paper 2D, very nice addition. We're also going to want to have paper ZD. There we go. And I'm not entirely sure whether or not we need to add it to the private dependencies as well, but we're just gonna kind of pretend like we do. And then we likely have to rebuild again, don't we? I think there's an auto-include option. I think it's clicking on the hammer icon. Just started right at 2. So this hammer icon over here is building. So, but maybe there's a different... Oh, it might be this. That's also build. It might automatically include missing includes when you build, though. That would make some amount of sense. So if I now stop this, does it close Unreal? I think it did. That's kind of neat. That's actually, yeah. I must admit, I kind of like the fact that this, and I know that this is possible to set up in Visual Studio too. I just never did. But that it just out of the gate does that, where like your editor actually like is able to open and close easily from your code. That is quite nice. That said, though, the auto include thing, I'm personally, if they have that, which is a neat feature, I probably still personally would be kind of wary to do that, because it would be really easy. Like, one of the things that I like about C++, which is kind of annoying sometimes, but it is really good to, like, because you have to manually add in every single time you need to, like, include a different class, you are much more aware of including those classes, rather than in Blueprint, where you can just, like, add a bunch of references, accidentally make hard references, and suddenly your entire code is, like, noodled together, right? I like having to purposefully include things, personally. So I probably wouldn't use it if that's a feature. But F5 does all that. It closes, builds, and reopens by itself. Okay, that by itself... I'm going to be real with you. Like, the fact that, like, unchanging assets, Blueprint things, this is nice to have. That one thing, like, if I just want to rebuild, I just press F5, it closes the engine. That means that live coding is no longer necessary. And if live coding is no longer... Well, live coding is probably still faster, but if that's a halfway decent alternative to live coding, That means that you probably can avoid using live coding a lot of the time. And live coding is an unstable piece of crap, which is really nice to be able to do. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to just be able to like live code, like patch stuff in. It also causes so many problems. So the fact that it's made easier to avoid using live coding with all that, with just one button press, which again, I'm sure that you can set up Visual Studio to do that as well, but again, it's nice that it's just working right off the bat. That is like actually amazing. Yeah, live coding is really good if you're just messing with values, but the issue is, and I run into this quite a lot with people like in the Discord, which is fine. I like helping people. I'm not saying that these people are like a problem, but it's a problem with Unreal's design. Is that people like start adding new stuff, like adding new values, and just like a float or an int value is usually not that big a deal. But like when you start adding like whole ass components to this thing, then patching that in through live coding is a little iffy. Because your code will, like your blueprints will break as a result, because it uses like a temporary type for like object references to that, because it's live coded in, and then when you save, even if you do remember to like proper build afterwards before you start up the engine again, a lot of your references are going to be broken, and it's just a mess. Anyway, we have also a U property added defaults only, which will be a class, not a character. What the fuck are you talking about? I need to learn to type. Class. What was it called again? I've already forgotten. It was called a... I'm assuming U paper ZD animation components. U paper ZD animation components. Animation components. Unable to find class U ZD with double capital. Is that the issue? That seems to have been the issue. Okay, cool. Great. Now we move over here and we simply set up our sprite to be create default sub objects. And this is kind of where Copilot comes in handy, because Copilot makes this kind of stuff a lot less tedious, but we'll probably manage. U paper flipbook components. What is the syntax for this again? I think we can just do like something like fname and then put in a string, right? So Sprite? It was something like that. Again, that's a downside of Copilot, is that those like little nonsense syntax things you don't remember. So when you don't have Copilot anymore, you just need to start actually thinking about this. Yeah, I haven't installed the Copilot add-on or plugin for Rider yet, because I frankly just forgot, but I'll do that between this stream and the next one. So collision box equals create default sub-object, which will be U box components. It doesn't seem to be giving any like errors when I do it this way, so I think this is probably a good way of doing it, but it might start screaming at me when I try to compile this, so we'll look at this in a moment. Is like set root components function? Yeah, I think you can also just do it through the variable directly, but this is probably a better way of doing it. And then sprite set set, what is it again? Set parent. Add. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Unreal C++ set component parent. Attach. That is what it is. Attach two components. Collision box. Function has 3 parameters. What are the other parameters? Do tell me. Have attachment rules. It's a plugin you can get on Rider. I know. I just haven't, because I set up Rider like last night and today I had work. So the fact that I set up the project in advance was like all I could manage. But I will look into it and add in Copilot. So I don't have Copilot working yet, but I'm sure that it's not that bad to do so. Just joined the stream, saw the title. Can you give me the main reason Godot is out? Just curious, debating for my 2D games. Personally, the reason Godot, I didn't like Godot was due to like mainly 2 things, and one of them is going to be a little bit bothersome to explain, but I'm going to go through it real quick, and that is a matter of structure. I talked about this, I think, in the last stream, but like if we have like Unreal here, Unity here, and like Godot here, Unreal is very very structured because its entire like code architecture is for the most part based on like a inheritance structure, right? So we have like inheritance, and then your classes themselves can still have some components. So in my opinion, that's kind of the best of both worlds. You have inheritance, very, very like strong structure, but you still have some amount of, the word escapes me at the moment, composition. Because, well, we're setting up components right now. Unity is effectively entirely composition based, which means that it, in a certain sense, from my experience, is a little bit less structured, which is good for some people. I like having that like pre-existing structure personally, but everything is still a game object in Unity, and the game objects just have a bunch of components. That is what their composition is, but everything still is a game object. In Godot, it kind of is like Unity, except the overarching thing, everything is a game object, just it doesn't exist. Everything is a node, but it's not like with Unity everything is a game object that has components. It is like the worst of both worlds in my opinion, because everything is a node in that everything inherits from the class node. But when you have a scene, that scene is filled with like just like a sprite floating around, and then like and that sprite then has like a child object, which is like its collision or whatever. So it lacks a certain amount of structure, which I personally didn't like. This is a thing that you can get used to, right? This is just a matter of I am used to using Unreal Engine. I used Unity for a while. I also quite like that. Once I got used to that, it was nice to work with. I'm sure that eventually I would have gotten used to the way Godot does things. I personally don't think that it is a style of like making stuff that suits me, but it's not necessarily what I would call bad. The thing that really screwed me over last weekend is that what I wanted to do is I wanted to effectively like do this, right? I like make a use struct here, just like my struct, and add in like a like an integer I, and then a fucking, what shall it be, like a like static mesh component or something, right? And what I wanted to do is then make a thing that is exposed to the editor. So in Unreal that would be a U property, in Godot that's export. Let's make that defaults only, and what I wanted to make is I wanted to make an array that then holds that's struct. So that would be a T array in this case, because we're in Unreal, of type my struct. And we'll call that example array. What this will do in Engine is it will give me an array, and every time I make a new item in that array, it will give me a field for the integer and a field for the static mesh, which is really, really nice. And in my opinion, a pretty basic thing to expect an engine to be able to do. There's no reasonable way in Godot to do this. There's a lot of workarounds to still get this result. Don't get me wrong. You can make like tool scripts, and I did like a bit of research on it even after Sunday stream. And there's a lot of people running into this. There's a lot of people who have solutions to this. But personally, I'm like, I use a game engine because I want this kind of thing taken care of so that I don't have to think about it. And if the engine can't provide me with, again, something that I think is a pretty basic requirement for a lot of like making your actual like game design experience not painful, then I'm gonna probably not enjoy my time using it. So that is the main thing that like that's the main thing that bothered me about it, and like a million small things. Also the fact that on my computer specifically, there was a lot of stuttering. But I think that is a very like uniquely existing issue for me because I haven't been able to find anybody else having that issue. So that's not entirely fair against Godot, I don't think. A map. I mean, that still doesn't solve the issue, because if you have a map, that means like you can only have one entry per key. So if I want to have like the same static mesh with two different integers as two entries, that doesn't work anymore with a map. With a map, you're looking through for a key, and that key can only have one value assigned to it. Moreover, if I want to have a struct that doesn't have two values, but like 5 values instead, a map also doesn't cut it. Just the fact that you can't expose your own made structs to the editor, like your code itself will still run fine. To be clear, like you can make your own structs and use them in your code, and that's fine. You just can't expose them very easily to the editor. And the way around that is to like overwrite some editor code yourself and like take the struct and deconstruct it into separate fields. So yeah. So yeah, that's a very long-winded version of why I didn't end up liking Godot. But I do want to be fair, is in that Godot is very much still like a work in progress project. Of course, it's been around for a while, but like it fairly recently got a bunch of money from a bunch of sources after Unity shit the bed. So, and that money isn't going to equate to instant progress, right? So this might be a feature that if I look at Godot again in a year, this might be fixed. I don't think the scene structure thing is going to be changed, but again, I think that is more of a matter of habits and what you're used to than it necessarily being a bad thing. I do think that the structs not being able to be exposed is straight up just a bad thing. But I also feel like this probably is something that will get fixed in the future. So yeah, that's all that. I probably would do it with a simple resource and YOLO, but for sure. Yeah, no, again, there's a billion ways to work around it, without a doubt. But, like, if I 20 hours into a project, learning the engine, already have to start thinking about workarounds because the engine doesn't allow me to do something. And I'm fairly certain at this point that it's not me misunderstanding or not understanding it. It is actually the engine just not allowing me. Like, if I that quickly run into something that basic that needs to work around, that is a bad sign for me. Anyway, we're trying to set up like transform rules, I think, right? So attach attack? No. Attachment. What the hell are you talking about? Attach transform rules. I think we just have static rules, right? So keep relative transform think that's the one we want. I don't think it actually matters, but hey. And then we also have a socket name, but that is optional because that's just that's just a function override. Cool. Or not an override, I forget that word. So that's now attached. And what we want to do next was the animation component. So animation component, I don't even know what that animation components equals sets create, create default subobjects of type, what was it again? U paper z the animation component with f name animation. Okay, that's a little annoying. Animation component. And we're probably going to need to do an include for that, right? Okay, so how does this automatic include work? Can I just like right click and include this, or type U paper CD? I mean, I certainly don't mind having to come up here, but since we're also trying to figure out Rider at the same time, I would be interested to see how I can like easily, like from inside of my code, instead of having to go all the way back up. Oh, that's not a U. Paper Z D animation components. Like how I could have added that more easily, potentially. I think it's missing arguments. Which one is missing arguments? The attached component does have a version with 3 arguments, but that's also just like that's for the socket. So if you don't want to attach to a socket, that's just like you can just leave that blank. So yeah, that sets up the basic code for our components, I think. Now I'm starting to think, hear me out here, maybe we don't want to make this, okay, that's a good question. Because what I would very much like is to also maybe just have a normal actor version of this so that I can create actors. But no, because all of that is going to be done through the tile map, I think. No, it is not, because some of the actors... Like the chest, for instance, has to have all these components as well. But then I can't very easily make something that inherits from actor and then make a child of that is possessable, because that needs to inherit from pawn. So I guess we'll just make this as like the base character, and then we'll also just make a base actor. That works. Okay, so now that I've added all this, I can just say, hey, F5. Like stop and rerun. It'll take a moment to do my shit. Next to the code line, there's an icon. Try clicking it. Okay, I'm going to try to keep that in mind for next time I need to include something. Because that will be really nice. I don't really like the idea of automatically doing that, but just being able to like... And again, I'm sure that VS Code has this kind of stuff, but... yeah. So this paper ZD character, but that's not what we want. I want to add in a blueprint class of... I think I called it shopkeeper or something like that, which is bad because I'm going to use this for the NPCs to... Well, we can always change the name for it. So this will be the shopkeep blueprint. And yeah, so we have our stuff here. So I think this is kind of everything that we need. We also need an enhanced input component. We can add that in a moment. That's fine. Okay, we probably should set that up automatically as well in C++. And then the animation class here. And then in the sprites as a placeholder, we'll just put this one. Okay, so a couple of other things that we're going to do in our code. So the first thing is our animation component is automatically going to need to be setting itself to use the sprites here to render to. And the sprite, I think, should by default have a rotation of 0, 0, like 90. No, 0, 90, 0, I think is what we want. No, it's 90, 0, 0. Eventually we'll get there. There we go. So that they all always face up. So let's set all that up first. So actually going to zoom out here for a moment. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult for you guys to read, but I'll zoom back in a moment once the white space is in place. Or I suppose it's a black space with dark mode. Okay, so we sprite set relative rotation. I don't want to add a relative rotation, I just want to set it. Set relative rotation, there we go. That takes in a F rotator with 90, 0, 0, right? I do like the fact that it like gives in the value names here. I know that VS Code has like a plugin for that as well. I never bothered to like look into that and install it, but this makes it so much easier to read stuff. What do we need aside from this? Bool sweep is false. All these have default values, so this should just... Oh, we need a semicolon. Okay, and then our animation component, like we have our like render. Do we have like a set render? Just render components. Let's try to open this class up. And look through this. So we have render component ref. Doesn't like it when I try to access that. Member is inaccessible. Yeah, okay. So we probably have a setting function for that. Sets render component to use before an instance has been created. Okay, so it is init render components. Makes sense that it's called init because it needs to be done before. Init render component, which will be our sprites. Was there anything else we needed to do in code that needs to happen to every single thing that we make here? Oh yeah, so this is probably going to break some stuff, but I do want to change the name of this class real quick. We're gonna close this because it's called shopkeeper now, and I just realized that is just going to be like our base 2D character class. So a 2D character, which is going to... Hold on. No, we do want that. I should just do it through this. So this is a 2D character. Renaming U class can break existing data assets. Adding a core redirect to configuration tells... yes, let's do that. So... does that mean that my stuff won't break now because Rider took care of that? Because, again, if that is a thing that Rider just does for you when you try to decide, like, hey, I want to change a class name, Like, that makes it triple worth it, because that is usually a huge fucking pain. F2 to save rename. Yeah, I know. I just kind of skipped over that. But yeah. Let's see. It needs a camera component. You are one. No, this one doesn't. The character doesn't. But the child of this, which is going to be the shopkeeper, which is like the player character, that one will need a camera component. But you are entirely right. I otherwise would have forgotten about that. So thank you very much. I guess other than naming, you set up the enhanced input stuff. Enhanced input also for the character class. I'm so glad that you guys actually like have working memory. Unlike me, who just like talks into a microphone for like 2 to 3 hours and then kind of just dies. Like, I don't need to have a brain, I have you guys. Also, there's like a few people watching on Twitch, which is unusual. But I don't mind it. I like it. I like the idea that people watch on Twitch, because that means that I'm paying for restream for a reason. So please do keep watching on Twitch. Okay, so yeah, this Paper ZD character, this was just for reference reasons, so we can actually just straight up remove this now. Yeah, we can force delete that. That's fine. And let's make a new blueprint class to the character. We'll call that test character for now. If we open that up and we add in a sprite here, it will already be orientated. Fuck. Or not. Maybe it won't be. Why is it rotated that way? That's kinda weird. It said Y290. Yeah, but if I go back into my code, it said pitch your roll. Oh, is that let's try. I mean, I guess what we want then is we want the yaw to be 90. So my initial intuition wasn't that bad. I'm guessing that it has to be this then. But let's check the rest first, because in the animation component it now automatically sets it to sprite, so that is good. Okay. Let's try again. Probably good to say that I don't want a dialogue box in the future anymore, because it's already starting to annoy me. I have to like reconfirm that. Then again, accidentally pressing F5 would be kind of fucked if you have unsaved stuff. Missing anim instant class. Yeah, but I don't need to set that through C++ code. Like, that is a thing that I want to set on a blueprint by blueprint basis. Rudder has a lot of nifty stuff for game engines, as is JetBrains Game Dev ID. Yeah, I'm kind of liking it so far. Really quite nice. To the character, just gonna call it a new blueprint at this point, just for testing. So if I just add this now, it's... How is this 90 degrees? How is that 90 degrees? Anybody care to explain to me how the fuck that is 90 degrees? Yeah, I don't think this line is like... I don't even know what this is doing, to be honest with you. What even like... If I comment this out, it'll be the exact same, right? X is Y... So I do need it to be at the end. This is why rotators fuck with my mind, man. Okay, we're gonna stop showing that dialogue box every single time. I understand why rotators exist, because like quaternions and like gimbal lock stuff, right? I'm just saying words. at this point. But I understand that they need to exist, but it's also like, man, just give me X, Y, Z. Just that works in my head. I understand X, Y, Z. If you start like mixing stuff up, like at least match pitch, yaw, and roll in order with X, Y, and Z, right? Like, is there a reason that can't be done? It might be. I don't know. One day we'll get there. Okay, so now it set the rotation to 90. The question is, did we want it at 90 or minus 90? I think that is it, yeah. Well, maybe technically we do want it at minus 90 now that I think about it. Because that then makes... Like if we go into the collision box, okay, maybe not. If we just drag this into the world, right? Yeah, I think we wanted at minus 90 because that way... hold on. What I want is I want a situation, and I guess we can just kind of get that through here. So if we just set this to 90... No, I do want it at 90. Because that way the Y is the up and down direction and the X is the left and right direction easily. So 90 is actually correct. Quaternions break my brain. Yeah, Quaternions are fucking... kudos to the person who actually like discovered or invented, depending on who you ask, those things. But also, man, fucking hell, it's not fun. Okay, with that done, we have a 2D character. Like, can we actually remove these classes easily? I'm just gonna like not. C++ class derived from, and this will be a 2D player. A 2D player. Create class. Probably should start sorting these into public and private, but okay, 2D player, header file going over here. Could you please just properly merge? Thank you very much. We have our 2D character that doesn't really do anything, to be honest with you. This already has a setup player input component in the character. I don't think we need that in the character. Because the AIs that we're going to have are not going to use a player input component. So, but we can just like copy that over to here. I don't know if it's important that it's in the public section, but we're going to put it in the public section. And then we have a shortcut for implement. We better fucking have a shortcut for implement. Probably would be pretty high up, right? Quick definition. Is it quick definition? Nope. Anyway, in the other class we do need to remove this. Show context actions. Generate definition. There we go. So that would be control that, and then if we is there a way to set up a direct shortcut for that instead of having to do that with two actions? Because this is a thing that you like would do a lot, right? So if there's a way to like directly set that up, that would be preferable, but I don't really care that much. Okay, so now we have our input bindings, which at the moment is literally just movement. So it's actually not that big a deal. Yeah, it's basically the icon that I've been telling you since the beginning. Okay, so it's that. Okay, so that's just like Control plus. You can add bindings in the settings. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna bother with that right now, but that's probably like a good thing to like put under like Control and then one of the F keys or something like that. And then map it to my macro keyboard. Okay, so we now want a U property, added defaults only. What is that thing called again? It's like U input action or something, right? U input action. Yeah, I think that's what I want. U input action pointer, maybe. For declare it, will it stop screaming at me? Movements. Oh, and then we yeah, then we need movement related code. For now, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that, to be honest with you. Because usually I pretty heavily rely on the character movement component. Because I I like the character movement component a lot. But I guess what we want to add is a void move player. And that takes in a something. That takes in something. I just forget what. Okay, let's do it this way. Movement, because this might give me a hint. Movement. I think we have like bind. U input action bind. Let's see. Oh, you need to. Okay, hold on. Because it just takes in a normal input component, you first need to cast it to a enhanced input component. So you enhanced input components pointer enhanced input components equals casts enhanced input components. Oh, you enhanced input component. I'm very sorry. And we'll take in for that the player input components. This is the one downside to having them side by side, is that it's harder to read long lines of code. Navigate to, refactor this, inspect this, generate code. So I would assume that this would, like this is the argument then. I mean, that's still quite nice to be able to do. But show context actions is what would allow me to like generate code, maybe. Definitions. Would it be missing members? I can't click on anything except definitions. Oh, and I kind of also fucked up the name for this. Anyway. Yeah, time to close this. That's actually a really good point. That is a really good point. That does free up a little bit more real estate on my screen. To be fair, if I was like programming on my own, it probably would be a little bit more at this size instead of like this size, but I want you guys to be able to read. Alt enter is like pressing the hammer icon yet. So like alt enter. Yeah, alt enter doesn't do anything, but that might be because I imported VS Code. I'll just include it manually. Include enhanced input components. I'll need to look up the easier way to do that though. Alt enter is your... Okay. I don't think for me it's alt enter. I think for me it is control period. Anyway, I was looking into all this. So we then use this and then we can bind action. And when I know that, I will know the signature for bind action. Probably, right? Hopefully. So we can bind our movements to that. We add in a trigger event, which is, I think, triggered, because this is going to run every frame, right? I always get them mixed up. Like, what is the difference between triggered and ongoing? Word context object, right? Oh, it's not a word context object. That's just one object to run a function on. And then we add in a reference to our move player function. Okay, and then move player, does this tell me what it needs to take in for a... Doesn't it to be a U function, by the way? Because it's getting bound to a... I don't think it's getting bound to like a U delegate, right? So it doesn't need to be a U function. Maybe it needs to be a U function. F input action value. That is the thing that I was... Oh, const F input action value. Okay, that is probably... That would have screwed me. That would have screwed me. The const. I would have forgotten that much. Yeah, F input... Thank you. I found it on the Unreal forums, but I probably should just keep my chat open because you guys are much faster than Google. So yeah, now what? Do we have like an apply force? Because I know that there's an apply force to character, but Unreal like apply force to actor? I don't want to just move him through set position. That seems like a bad way to do that. Do I have like a force? Yeah, of course not. Set movement? Nah, of course not. Set force? I guess we can just set velocity, right? Can we not directly set the velocity either? I seem to remember something like that actually. Unreal set velocity. you need to get the relevant component of the actor, then apply velocity to that. So, so if we get root components, we can add we can set velocity. Is that just velocity component velocity? Okay, so f vector 2D equals value v-align bottom, no, value dot get as f vector 2D. Maybe give the variable a name as well. Input direction, and then this will be equal to input direction, right? Maybe not. Because that needs to be a can we just, I'm hoping, but I'm not very hopeful, we can just like cast this to a f vector like this. Yeah, I don't think so. It would have been nice if that wasn't that easy. Would have been nice. Instead, I guess what we do is we make a f vector with input direction dot x, input direction dot y, and 0. I can confirm that the writer adds the includes needed. When there is an unrecognized element, click on the light bulb icon and select from the quick actions. Yeah, okay, but it just like, it didn't do that a moment ago, like when I had enhanced input components. Show action context. Also, by the way, so yeah, this is the shortcut for me, so not alt, whatever. But show these actions, and then we have these options. We have split declaration assignment that just added a white space, navigate to, refactor this, that might be it, inspect this and generate code. And for generate code, we then had all these options, which are all grayed out. So might be missing out on something there, but for now it's fine. So yeah, this more or less just should allow me to do what I need to do. Unless actually, I think you also need input mapping on this guy, right? Do you need? I always add that because that's how I learn to do it, but I've always kind of wondered if you actually need that, because I feel like you don't, because that's an entirely different asset that shouldn't. Oh wow, okay, what is the issue? Where is the issue? The issue is here. Gets do I need to dereference it or something? I might be jumping ship a little too fast. Create to use. Oh, we need to. That's maybe. Is that what we want to do? Yeah, that actually doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Oh. Hold on. I think I get it. We initialize it first. And then we say this. That'll fix us right up. Or not. I'm gonna real quick look up f input direction get. Unreal. Input direction, no input value. That's why I don't get all the stuff. And then gets. Unreal. Getting all kinds of JavaScript stuff. How to get enhanced input values in C++? Yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm just getting... Oh! It's a function. So it does, yeah, no, okay, fair enough. So presumably, like, this will still just work. I mean, that's a different issue. I just missed a semicolon, seemingly. There we go. And then void. This overload is not found. I'm assuming that's also to do with the missing semicolon, right? Because we've got move player const f input value. That does match. So that overload. Overload. That's the word that I was looking for before. Overload does not exist. What the hell are you talking about? Void move player const f input action value reference value. That's literally what this is. I also did think that it was supposed to be factor 2D with a capital D. So let's do that as well. But this is kind of confusing me because a member function cannot be made const. It's not though. That's just a parameter. What am I missing? Isn't that a return declaration? Isn't it? Oh, that's probably it. That's probably it. No, that's definitely not it. In CPP class, include input action value. Oh, yeah, that might be it. Shouldn't that be in enhanced input component though? Because input action value is a struct, right? So we can check it out. Inputs action value.h. It is its own header file. Overload not found. Yeah, I'm going to real quick make sure that all this is saved. Open my Action RPG project real quick in a new window. I'm just gonna open up my character class real quick. Because like I have my move function here. Yeah, so that is just const input action value reference as well. Do I have like any includes to that in here as well? I do in the header file. That's probably the thing that is fucking me. So you were right. I needed to just also include it in the header file. Or I can forward declare this as a struct, I suppose. It is a struct, right? Yes, it is a struct. So I guess instead of including this, I can just forward declare this as a struct. Oh my god, don't remove that stuff. That should also take care of that. Please? It does! Nice! Okay, cool. Probably should do that in my own game. Well, these are both my games, but in my like action RPG as well, because I have plenty enough including my player as is. Like way too many. Okay, we have our character now, so we're gonna need to add in a camera in a moment as well, but let's do like player. We have our 2D player somewhere in here, a 2D player. That's gonna annoy me, the fact that it has that A in there, but sure. Test player. Let's load that in here. It's actually a really good point that we do. Well, we just add a camera in Blueprint for now. That'll be all right. So set the animation instance class here to that. Set a like placeholder for it, and let's add just a simple camera to that, which we will not to the sprite actually, to the collision box, because if we want to flip the sprite, we don't want to be flipping the camera. That seems like a bad idea. So we rotate that 90 degrees, pull it up a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, auto possess. When you say plays in the world, auto possess player 0 for now. And in theory, we should now be able to move around, I think. Except the fact that we didn't know. We missed a very vital thing. And that is actually creating the input mapping for it. So input mapping context, player inputs, and then input mapping action, player move. And player move will be a vector 2D, where the triggers will be holds. Ah, that's what trigger does. You can set up specifically what a trigger. Okay, yeah, now I remember. Or is it pressed only fires once? I think it is actually. Hold is fires once, so we don't want hold actually. Hold on, down. When the input exceeds actuation threshold, so we want to do this on down, and actuation threshold will be, I guess, like 0.2, just a little bit lower. And then we, in the action mappings, I think we might need to put in mappings as well. Now I'm actually like putting this in because the player needs to be aware. I'll just do like arrow key. You can also set that down here. Where do we set up the value for it though? Oh, modifiers, that's where. So this is just x will be positive. But we also need to like put that into like the 2D array, right? Otherwise it's just going to be a float value. So how do you do that with I think it might just be scalar, and then okay, and this is putting it into an array. So this will be then the x value only. So we don't do that. And can we just like duplicate this, pretty please? Because it would be really nice if we could just copy this, paste that. Would have been too nice. But maybe we can like do this with the entire trigger thing. We can. We definitely can. Then we also need to separately do it with modifiers. So I don't know if it really helps me that much. But with left, we can now say that creates -1. And I think that allows me to maybe now walk left and right. But maybe I need to actually put in those input mappings as a value on the character itself as well. I think I do. So let's save everything real quick. So yeah, let's check real quick here. Inputs, mapping context. I have a value for that in here. I just need to then also, like, do I use that anywhere? Because that is the thing that I don't remember doing, like using mapping inputs. What did I call it? Default mapping context. Do we use that anywhere? Oh yeah, I do. No, I do. I do. So I changed that to possessed by. But you'd need to add a mapping context still. So let's do that. We can just do that at the start of this, I think. So we can with the enhanced input components add, was it not the enhanced input component? What the hell was it then? Subsystem. You input local player subsystem. Show context. Can we? Include this. Change all local. Yeah, no, I didn't think so. Generate code. Still grayed out. I mean, we also don't have the player controller thing, so and we don't have the value. Oh no, we do. What the fuck even is uLocal player? I guess that is a static function. Sure. U enhance, but that get local player. It's been literal months since I've touched any of this to set it up in a project, so it's been a while. Unreal set mapping context C++. Yeah, okay, so we have uLocal player is cast, local player get controller. And then we get the enhanced player subsystem is input system get subsystem u enhanced local input system. So okay, let's just include that as well, I guess. Again, I'm a little weirded out by the fact that the like big feature that, well, it's not the big feature, but the automatic includes seem to be messing up for me, but I'll look into that later. So that is enhanced inputs. What are we looking for? Local. No. It's probably like located in a folder that I don't know. Unreal. Just copy over this entire thing. Just tell me where to get the include, man. Unreal. Navigate to related files, maybe. Nah, it's not doing it. That's not doing it for me. What am I talking about? I have like literally a project file open here that just has that include. Because it has a bunch of includes here. So we can just check out. It's probably fairly high up, I would imagine. Character movement, controller, spring arm components, enhanced input, subsystem. It's probably this one. Okay, there we go. That's what that does. We don't have a player controller, but we can still get controller. And we need to cast that. Okay, so we need to actually make this a little bit more robust as well, in a couple of ways. Let's add in the class for U inputs mapping context, default mapping context. Needs to be a pointer. Fucking course it does. Yeah, so all this, like, we can honestly just kind of do it like this, right? So if enhanced subsystems equal to, and then just add in a couple of spaces like this, because we can get controller, which we then cast to a player controller. We'll get there. Just moving some things around. I prefer that to be there. I think that does the trick. Let's comment this a little bit. Setup default mapping context bind actions. Yes. Okay, let's try all that again. First, before we do any of that, make sure everything is saved. That's the wrong project file. And there we go. Build a success. That's always a good thing to see. And with that, I think we can now go back into our test player. And we can set up our movement and our input mappings. And now maybe we can move around if we're lucky. That would be really nice if we could. Still no luck. Still no luck. Why would that be? maybe we don't use that. Maybe I messed something up in the player inputs? But I don't think so. I don't think I messed anything up here, right? Is it just like when I press right? It should... Oh, no, it is moving. It's just moving very, very slowly. I think. Yeah, so let's say I set this to like 100 instead. Still going to be moving pretty slowly, I think. But, and this is not the way that we should be doing that. We should be including like a separate variable for that. But I think this, no, still doesn't allow me to move. That is... I would have expected that to do something at least. Is it because of collision related stuff? No. ulog move player. Oh, but that needs to be like a string or something, right? How do we do that again? Is it that? Other way around? There's another one of those things where I'm like, Copilot just takes care of this for me usually. UE log. That's EU log. That's something entirely different. Yeah, we just need to pass in some more things. So we do log temp. We'll do this as a warning so that it stands out. And then, oh, that's the macro that we should be using everywhere. It's text. So walking. I might just need to use ongoing instead of triggered. And this still is bitching about member function cannot be made const. Yeah, I don't know why you're bitching about that, because it's just not, is it? Something's just a little weird there. But now we'll be able to see in the log whether or not this function even gets run to begin with, because it might not be. So let's check the output log and check whether or not we... Oh, it's definitely running that function. It definitely is running that function. Which brings me to the next thing, is that must mean that either the velocity here is not getting set properly, which is probably what's happening, or it's not getting the vector... Is this the issue? Please tell me that wasn't the issue. What's the difference? What is the difference in Unreal between a vector 2D with a... It compiled, so it actually probably isn't a difference. But I'm going to look this up real quick. F vector 2D versus F vector 2D. Yeah, I don't know. How do you print extra integers again in this? I don't have Copilot open, so I'm just going to open up ChatGPT real quick. And I'm going to ask it to... Hey, I want to print the X and Y values of my vector in Unreal Engine. This is my code. Yes, that's what I want. Thank you very much. There we go. Let's see if the values are getting passed in. Because if they are, it's something to do with this setting velocity, and it's always the thing that fucks me up, which is why I like using character movement, but we're not going to be able to. There is a function called add movement input, which you could use instead of... yeah, but doesn't add movement input just... Like, you need to implement that yourself if you don't have, like, a character movement. Like, if you don't have a movement component that does something with that, I don't think add movement input does anything. You need to implement that yourself. Right? I'm going to try it in a moment, just to make sure, but I think that is the case. Oh, let's see. Actually, I need to make sure that... Yeah, so it is actually passing in the values properly. So it's the set value or the set movement thing that isn't working properly. Okay, I'm going to try add movement input, because that is still a good idea, even though I don't think that's going to work. But like add movement inputs. We can just steal this line here. Add word direction, and then I think we can add like a magnitude or something, right? Like that, right? So for now, that's just going to be 1. And that's that. So my muscle memory, live coding. No changes detected. I back to differ, but we can just do this. That's fine. I don't know if adding things through or blocking users through restream actually blocks them on Twitch themselves. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, so that doesn't change anything. Yeah, I think it needs character movement for that, even though it's part of the pawn class. So I think character movement just implements an implementation for that, which sets the velocity of your character. And if you use add movement input without having something that implements functionality for it, it doesn't do anything, which is what we're getting at now. It might also be that this thing is set to static. Hold on. That's always one of those things where I'm like, now it is movable. Okay. It's always good to check though. I mean, it's not going to be a good solution, but I do want to check if I like add actor world offsets, and I do this. Because this will just update the character's position or location in the world. Which is not how I want to do this, to be very clear. I also don't know. I'm assuming that like this input system runs on like its own thread with consistent like frame timing, so that I don't have to multiply things with delta time, right? I think. Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, so that works. It works in the wrong direction, and with way too much fucking motion blur, but that works. So definitely something to do with setting the velocity that is not working. Which I have to imagine is because you can't just set the velocity through this way. So now that we have ChatGPT open anyway, I might as well just ask ChatGPT, how would I use this input vector to set my character's velocity. U character movement component. Yeah, but I don't have a U character movement component. I don't have a character movement component. This is a custom pawn. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not setting it through location, man. ChatGPT, you just no. I want to set it through its velocity. I want this to like run based on like physics and not frames, right? Don't update the location. I want it to work on velocity. Unreal set actor set pawn velocity. Set pawn velocity. Let's see. Scene component set all physics linear velocity. Set all. Nope. If I just try to type velocity, we've got component velocity, we've got get component velocity. I mean, we don't have a setting function, so that kind of that kind of implies that you're not supposed to be able to set it directly, but I mean, it's really weird, isn't it? This unfortunately didn't work. My root component is a use sphere component. It's not meant to be simulated in physics. I need something that works in kinematic space. Oh, that might be it. Hold on. I think I got it. So we can do this with component velocity. Let's comment this out for a moment. I'm going to do this with live coding real quick because at this point I have given up on caring. So what the issue is, most likely, is because it is a box component, its default collision setup is set to overlap all dynamic. And we don't want that. We want this to be custom because it does only queries. We do want it to also do physics. Because applying a velocity to something that doesn't do physics calculations is not going to move it. That's probably what's happening. So this is collision enabled, and we also effectively wanted to block everything except for camera, except for camera. So I think now that we have that set up, it will still not move. Never fucking mind. Okay. Is that because this particular instance is still using the... No, that's also using the thing. We almost had it. Have you ever tried Unity? I have, yeah. I tried Unity for like half a year. And then went back to Unreal. Okay, but why is this now? I really thought that this was going to be the solution, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's not. Okay, so what this guy does is he makes a vector for new velocity, then gets a pointer to the actor, some code to get a pointer to the actor, U movement component equals movement component, so that's the custom movement component. Movement component velocity is new velocity. So do we have a normal movement component actually? Movement You've got a... Hold on. Maybe we can actually use this. Flowing pawn movement is a movement component that provides simple movement for any pawn class. Oh yeah, let's just use that. Like 100% we need to use that. Opinion. I mean, I like Unity, and I mean, I'm now using Unreal to make something 2D, mostly as an experiment. I think if you want to make something in 2D, Unity is definitely just straight up a better option than Unreal. So I think if you want an engine that handles both 2D and 3D very well, Unity does both very well. I personally like Unreal more for the fact that it just gives you a lot of like pre-made shit. So Unreal feels like it has more to offer as like a start, which also means that there's like more to learn, which makes it feel like it has a higher barrier to entry, which scares a lot of people off, I feel. But that also in some ways means that Unreal is a little bit more restricted in the way it lets you code, in that it really wants you to write code in like their style, almost. Like the way it has pre-set up like game modes and player controllers and AI controllers and all that kind of stuff. It really expects you to like use all that, while Unity feels a little bit more freeform, which I personally like all that pre-made structure, because it lets me put my time and effort into the things that I want to work on, rather than working on all like that framework kind of stuff. But I think especially once you scale up from like a solo dev to a small team and then like a medium-sized team at some point, having the like more freeform nature of Unity would also potentially give you easier freedom to make your own stuff. Then again, Unreal Engine, it's not open source, but its source code is entirely available. Like I can just scroll through the source code here, and you can make your own extensions and changes to the engine as well. But that's kind of the thing, is if you want to do that with Unreal, you need to start like changing pre-existing engine code instead of just like writing your own on top of it for the most part. Which that is something that I'm like, okay, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, yeah, let's add for the 2D character in our protected section here. Also the class, I'm guessing it is floating pawn movement components for the let's call it movement, pawn movement. Pawn movement was a pretty good name. Pawn movement. Object member can be destroyed during garbage collection. Yeah. We'll get to that. And open up the CPP file that goes with it. And in a lot of ways, I actually kind of like specifically Unreal with C++ a lot as well, which is a very unpopular take, I think. It's kind of similar, but maybe I've just gotten more used to it at this point. I don't know. There's every chance that that's mostly what is happening here. Let's add that in here. Pawn movements. Create default subobject of type U floating pawn movements. Yeah, so we actually want to put that in as a text, not as a fname, I think. So pawn movements, and that is a actual component, so we don't need to put it as a child of the root. We now need to go back into our player and change this back to, yeah, we'll just reboot in a moment again. We now need to change this back to add. Why are you opening up object.h, writer? Why do you feel the need to do that? Add movement inputs, which will be... Oh, we already have a line for that, so we just keep that. And we'll implement a scale value for that in a moment. Well, actually, might as well do that now. Hold on. If we're adding stuff anyway, might as well, right? Add it. Let's do this. Add it anywhere. Will just be a float. Movement speed. Very good question. I don't know how AI is going to deal with that movement component. We'll figure it out at some point. But let's initialize this to like 25 or something. And then relaunch the engine again. Relaunch the engine again. And once we got our movement working, I think we're going to wrap it up here because it's been about 3 hours. So, and I do just like have work tomorrow as well. I don't know, it's not rebuilding. Encounter exception at address. Oh, is there a null? Is there a null thing going on? Is that why it opened up that other file? Oh, I know. I think I know what happened. No, that is a pointer. Never mind. I mean, this is a component, right? So this shouldn't get garbage collected randomly, I don't think. Maybe mark as a U property anyway in a moment. Probably can't hurt, right? Yeah, okay. So there's an issue where it crashes, and it crashes due to create default sub-object U floating pawn movement, and that might be because it doesn't have an include? Question mark? Let's try to add an include for it first, before we do anything else. Floating pawn movement. The generator.h. I don't think that's what we want. Equals instead of... Oh, you are right. Yes. You are right. And this is why we're going to end the stream in a moment, because my brain is shutting down. Let's end and see if that fixes it. It should. There we go. Thank you for the call out. That was nice. That was really nice. Not to have to worry too much about. Okay, so now, in theory, I think we have movements in the wrong direction again, but we have movement. So it now should be as easy as going back into our player inputs mappings here and switching left and right around. So we make this left and this right, and then adding 2 more. And this will be up and down. And we'll also then hook this into... Actually, I think it is already hooked into the player's price, right? So the player's price should just straight up work now. That is quite nice. Okay. Also, these need to go back down to 1 because I don't know how this is always going to impact things. I don't think it will because this just... I think this just gets normalized anyway with add player movement input because it just takes it as a direction. So I'm assuming that it normalizes it, but let's not assume things too much. So this becomes up, so that is 0 and 1, and this becomes 0 and -1. And I think that this effectively... okay, we're going to do one more thing actually, and as in the project settings, we're going to turn off motion blur, because I don't know how I managed to be inside an Unreal project for 3 hours. Okay, that does not quite work yet. Why not? Huh. I'm mostly confused as to why X and Y do work. Let's look at my code. Input direction X and Y. And Z is always 0. At movement speed. We are logging the X and the Y actually, so that's -1, -1, -1, -1. Hold on. Let's scroll this all the way down. Oh, it's not registering the up and the down inputs. Why not? No, really, why not? Trigger down. That's all the same. I don't think changing this back to a float is gonna fix that. No. And we don't have the flipping of the thing figured out yet, but we'll worry about that later. Why do up and down not get registered as inputs? I literally copied them over, so... What's up? Let's just reapply this. Who knows? Maybe that... No, that doesn't fix shit. Huh. It's not even a movement component. It's actually the input that is not doing its thing. I don't even think this matters, if I'm being real with you. It is entirely up to this. Which doesn't do what it needs to do. So if we just, like, just for shits and giggles, let's just remove left and right. Left and right don't work, and now up and down also don't work. So what is the difference between left and right and up and down? Let's see. That's all to do with player mappable keys. That's not what I care about. Yeah, you can't add the same mappings twice. That's just what I wanted to check. Unreal mapping context some keys not registering. Oh no. Input action not working. For those new in the enhanced subsystem. And it is all pretty basic shit. I understand that, but like everything here should just work, right? Anybody got any suggestions? Because I'm kind of weirded out on how this doesn't work the way it should. You know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I did live coding, didn't I? I'm gonna blame live coding. I'm gonna properly rebuild. And who knows, that might actually save it. Because yeah, we have like bind action to I'm just gonna put this to the side real quick. Still don't do anything. Yeah, okay, so we have our movement, right? And our movement in our player class is this U input action, which corresponds to this, right? And this is just an asset that is just like an action, which we then have these things mapped to, and that is where's writer? There we go. And that is this mapping context. So that is getting applied. And we know that it's getting applied and that it works because left and right do work. So whenever that thing is triggered, it should fire move player. And when it fires move player, we get this, and like this not working is one thing, but it doesn't even like fire the U log, so it's just not firing that function altogether whenever we do an up or down. So if we press right, we trigger down. If we up, we trigger down with a value of 0.5, 0.5. The modifiers are scalar and scalar. Does it for some reason not like... the fact I'm trying to put things into the Y components there? Because I'm going to be real with you, if that's the case, we are kind of screwed. Yes! That is the issue. The fuck? Let's make this into a vector then? Maybe it doesn't like that because it's trying to put like a vector 3 into... But then it shouldn't do... Yeah! Don't worry, I'm not actually dying. I think. Maybe. Who fucking knows? Maybe I need to put it into the Z value. For some fucking reason. Yeah, I didn't think so. So it doesn't like it when I try to put this into the... into the Y. I'm just gonna try putting it only in the Z, but that doesn't seem like it makes a whole lot of sense either. Yeah, no. Unreal mapping, context, scalar, Y not working. Why is that? Input map and context needs to be added to pawn with tick event. That's not what I'm looking for. Like, that's not even close to my problem. And hand input not registering Y value. That is exactly my issue. Use pawn control rotation. Use pawn control rotation. Use pawn control rotation. Use... No. I don't think that's it. That must be set to true on your character blueprint so that the component rotation is updated properly. I don't think that's what's going on here, but we might as well try it. And let's just like control rotation. Yeah, the more I think about it, actually, the less that makes sense. That being the issue. Yeah, that's like not even... Like, that's not even close to being the issue, I think. What even the fuck? Yeah, no, that's definitely not it. But maybe on the pawn itself, we have use control. No, I don't think any of this is it. Yeah, because this is all to do with a guy trying to... Oh no, actually. Yeah, no, it is to do with this mouse. It's probably to do with moving his camera. That's not what I want. I use swizzle axis value modifier. Let's try that instead. I might just be mixing things up. That might be what I need to do instead. Let's see, which one is that? Oh yeah, so I think you're right. I think what I was doing is I was taking in a vector and turning it into a scalar. That makes a lot more sense. Well, what I need to do is I need to take a scalar and turn it into a vector. So we have x. Do we not have x, y, z? What the? Z, x, y with the ordering. Okay, so now how do I set that to then input in any given... Oh, I suppose this is... Oh, that swaps the x and the y-x. Okay, so this this doesn't need modifiers. Left and right don't need modifiers at all, is what we're learning here. Okay, it's been a while, so I'm like learning live on the go. And then we have the swivel XYZ, which again, it's this one. And I want to swap around the X and the Y in this case. So it thinks it's applying it to the X, but then this modifier is like, nope, you're getting applied to the Y. So swap X and Y. There we go. And then this one, actually the one of these also needs a negate modifier. I think it's this one. And then It's probably, I would imagine that it's down that needs negate on this one. But we'll get to that in a moment. So this does first the swizzle thing, which it does XYZ, there we go, and then we negate it. The down needs to negate. Yeah, it's and either left or right needs to negate as well. Yeah, so I mix it up. But hey, we got this working. Like we can actually move around. It's just he moonwalks. So we just swap around like this. We delete this negate and we add a negate here. And now that we're on it, we might as well try to figure out a way to swap to like flip the character sprite as well, just to finish things off. And then next time we'll actually look into like making the cards and stuff, but that'll probably be a quick thing because all of that is not to do with player input, and player input is always the thing that I get stuck on, and nothing to do with like actually 2D, honestly. What was I doing again? I was doing negate. Am I just blind? Oh, it's because I'm in triggers. Ah, that makes a lot of sense. Why that? I need to be in modifiers. There we go. That's a more familiar menu. Okay, so we have our left movement, our right movement, our down movement, and our up movement. That's fantastic. And then I guess we can just, in our player movement, if our movement direction X is so left, it was left negating or right negated? I already forgot. Right is negated, so left is positive value. So going back into a rider. So if our movement direction X is greater than 0, and we also want to build in our, that's the wrong thing, %, please, and our input direction dot y is equal to 0. Then we want to sprite set, oh hold on, we need to do like a little pointer thing, set capital S sprite set relative rotation to it's a good question. How are we going to do that? Which axis do we need to flip? I guess we should just check that in engine real quick before I start to just randomly guess. So what we need to flip 180 degrees would be, I think it would be the Z, right? No, it would be the Y. Yes. And the Y component is the pitch, I think. Set relative rotation. So that would be sprite.get relative rotation dot what is it, roll? Oh, hold on, no, we need to first make this a F rotator, and then we give in the sprites get rid of the rotation. Probably could do this a little bit better. I think the roll I think this then might need to be 180, and this needs to be... Oh, that's... Dot... Yo? Okay, no. In this is pitch. Then we have yaw. And then we have roll. And I think roll is the thing that we want to change to 150. Or 180, right? I guess we're about to find out. There definitely still is a issue here. Let's space this out a little bit more. Well, now it doesn't neatly tell you what is what. That's kind of too bad. Let's give it a shot. I need to turn on the light because I can't actually see my keyboard. Compilation error. Fucking of course. Set relative rotation. Well, fuck. I might just need more parameters. No, just an F rotator should be enough. So we have F rotator. Let's put this back on one line just so that I can see it a little bit better. So we have Sprite, relative rotation, pitch. Yaw and roll. Oh, hold on. No. That's still... Let's set that to 90 and that to 0. I don't want to like specifically overwrite any values if I don't have to though, but for now. Okay, so the last one is actually supposed to be 90, then is the yaw supposed to be 180? I always get these mixed up. Who the fuck thought this was a good idea? Fucking idiot, that's who. Let's just test with this. We can always like upgrade this and make this work better later. Yeah, so there's something weird going on there. Does this now... Well, that's interesting. I'm guessing what it's doing is, yeah, so, yeah. So this should probably remain to be... oh, that is supposed to be... What the hold on. This was 180, but that's supposed to be 90. So let's set that to like 90 again. And then this is supposed to be 180. And when this is 0, it is... Yeah, okay, so... I've got an idea. I should have done this fucking ages ago. F rotator. F rotator rather. New rotation equals F vector. We're just going to do it like this because this has a 2 rotation function, right? Yeah, rotation. Much more straightforward. Because in there we can now just say, okay, we're supposed to say this is 9000, I think. 9000, maybe. And then we can just set the relative rotation to new rotation instead. Let's check that out first. Oh, that was still running. Who cares? Okay, not quite. Not quite. What the hell is happening to my camera? Actually, what the? Okay. Why is that at 000? It's supposed to be like 9000. This might be a thing where I'm just getting too brain cooked to solve a very basic issue. And I should probably just like call it a day, to be honest. But at this point I'm just too annoyed at life. I've got a better idea. Sprites. Set relative scale. Because this one we can very easily just, instead of rotating it, what we can do is we can just f vector, and I am like 92% sure that I can do this consistently without fucking things up with the rotation and stuff, which is probably gonna be just more robust anyway. So let's just do it like this instead. And if we want to do the scale here, like we just set the y to -1, right? Okay, yeah, so that actually like doesn't show much. Okay, so it's definitely not a y. It's the x, isn't it? Yeah, so we just set the x to -1. And that also flips the sprite. So that's -1, 0, 0. And else... Oh, no, -1, 1, 1. Not 0, 0. And else we just set it to a vector dot, like, do we have like .1? Yeah. Oh, that does like need that. So I do think that this is probably going to work. Hopefully. There we go. And we can still move up and down very easily, and only if we actually move properly. Oh, okay, that is, no, that was not what I wanted. Yeah, so I want, and this is what I liked about setting up all the code myself when we did it in Godot, is that I could give like priority to the up and down sprites. How am I going to do that now? Well, I'm probably not going to do it now, is how I'm going to do it now, but let's check out if we have any reasonable... Like, is there a convenient way for me to give priority to the up and down animations over the side animations? Because the side animations are gonna mess things up real bad. Like if I could just make these, like I suppose what I could do is I could like make this 8 directional, right? And then I could just say, hey, like this also uses the up animation. I guess that's just how you do it. Yeah, I guess that is just how you do it. Just say, hey, this uses that, and this uses that, and this kind of annoying that it keeps going back there, and these use that. And now there is still like, especially if you're using a gamepad, there still might be a little bit of fuckiness. Okay, no, what the fuck? Oh, these just straight up didn't have a value. Okay. This now has walk down. What the hell? This is walk side. Okay. It does a little weird thing there, but nothing we can't fix. So this is then like walk side. This is also walk side, and that I think should fix it. So we can walk up, and if we're walking side to side while walking up, but now yep. So yeah, it still does prioritize the left. Oh, I felt like we're gonna fall off here, but of course that's not what's happening at all. So yeah, for the left movement, it does prioritize the that's weird. Why does it prioritize? And only for the... That must mean that I just messed something up here, right? No. Oh, it's an angle thing, I think. Hold on. This is just a matter of angle. Let's see if that fixes it. This is not intuitive, by the way. Okay. That does not fix anything, like even remotely. It is just going to move the problem, because now it's not going to do this when I'm walking. It still does it when I'm walking down. Yeah, I think I should just stick to having this be 4 directional, to be honest with you. So this is walk up, this is walk to the side. This is walk down. And this is also walk to the side. And I should just fix this up in the blueprint. So we... I guess what we do is we do, in the end, break and then remake. Because we're going to floor the Y and then make this back into a vector 2D. So this way the Y will only ever be, or the X actually. No, I don't know, it's not gonna work that way actually. We want the... Let me think. Yeah, so what we actually... We want something a little bit more complex. Yeah, we want something a tiny bit more complex than this, I think. Because what we want is we want to check if Y is greater than 0. X will always be 0. So we, okay, so we make, we'll get there. a vector. We need to do this in the... Okay, hold on. We probably need to do this in the event graph for this, because there's like on event tick on init. Let's do it on event tick. We make a vector 2D actually. Vector 2D. Make. And we promote it to variable, and that is input direction. Which will set every frame. So if y is greater than 0, what we do is we put in a branching node. Is we make a vector where y is y and x is 0. And we set that, and if it is not, we, I guess, make an input where it's the other way around. So x is x and y is 0. And then in the animation graph again, we'll just put in our input direction into both of these. I think this fixes my issue in a kind of roundabout way. So yeah, the up and down is taking priority now. Okay, we need to could use a select node instead of this branch into sets. Yeah, that's a good point. Because we can... no, select doesn't work with floats. So I actually can't do that. I guess we can cast it to an integer, but we'll do it this way. So something else is going wrong. The bool. Oh yeah, you can do it on the bool. Also, no, select definitely does not work with floats. Like I literally typed in float and it doesn't. But it does work on bools, right? So I could do it on this bool instead. I meant by bool. Yeah, no, that works a little bit better. So we can then like set input direction with that instead of using this. That's a little bit cleaner. So let's do that. You're right. Max range clamp. I don't think that would accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. I think select is actually like a good idea though, so I'm going to stick with that. But so if y is greater than... Okay, so it needs to be... This does need to be if y's absolute value is greater than 0. We do all that. So then we... Hold on, if it's greater than 0, then... Okay, so on false we do these, and on true we do this. I might have just mixed that up a little bit. Because it wasn't working with up and down. But now the down animation takes priority and the up animation takes priority. But when I'm... Okay. If you change, but your velocity doesn't reset. So if we're already walking up and then we... It takes a moment to do that. So you probably should just have a vector 2 for input. But then we need to cast, which is fine, I guess. Okay, let's save all that. And give our player just a... somewhere in here. a U property, vector, no, that's blueprints, read only, f vector 2D, last inputs. And we'll then also set last inputs, no, last inputs equal to our input direction, which is also, I think, a good moment to, since I'm adding new stuff, to just like reload the engine real quick. And with that, it should finally work. I was planning to do like a decently length stream, like 2 hours. We're coming up on 4. Tomorrow is going to be a fun day of work. It's probably not going to be that bad, depending. Let's open these assets up just because. And then instead of using the velocity, what we'll do is we'll use the... Oh. Okay. Everybody shut up about casting every tick. It doesn't actually matter. Cast to player. Get last inputs. Break. Y. To be clear, it would be better if I just cast on init and have a variable, but like only on a theoretical level, to be honest with you. Oh, now, which one was which again? When true, we want to have Y, and when false, we want to have the X animations. I think that is the way we want to do that. Yes, I think. Okay. Yeah, and so now the moment I let go of the down, we immediately switch to yeah, to the proper thing. That said though, there is a little bit of like slidiness to the movement to begin with, I feel. But that's maybe something that we can look into at another time. I think for now, we effectively have our 2D movement working, right? Which is the most important bit. The only thing that I would really... And we'll set it as a default pawn and stuff later. The only thing that I really kind of want to look into right now is setting this to like a lower value, because everything is so tiny that maybe we should scale things up a little bit, but... this kind of works, right? Still relatively fast. Maybe we do want to scale them up. But then we're going to have to scale everything up every time we add something in. No, actually we don't, do we? Hold on, there is a thing that I can do. Hold on, there is a thing that I can do that fixes that. I remember now. I think we can do it in the player sprite itself, maybe. Put the camera closer. No, you can actually, I think it might be in the sprites. Yeah, pixels per unit here. This is kind of just like a general scale factor of 40 pixels. So if I set this to like being 4 times as large, I need to do it on all these sprites. Then we can asset actions, property matrix, pixel. Oh, that also includes some animations. That's not what I want to do. Let's see. Only the sprites, please. I think this is only sprites now. Asset actions. We can property matrix. And now in here we have that pixel thing. which is multiple values. I think I set it to 4. And that will just kind of like render every pixel as 4 pixels, effectively just scaling it up by 4 times. So now if we go back into our level, we should see that our character is 4 times as small. I did it the wrong way around. That's kind of dumb that it works like that, but sure. So if I set it to 0.2, it'll be 5 times as big instead. So now everything is 5 times as large, which will allow me to pull back the camera a little bit more. And the collision doesn't line up and stuff like that as a result, but we'll worry about that later. So yeah, now I can pull back the camera a fair bit. Or make the lens wider, whatever. And this will feel like... See, we're moving at the same speed, but it feels more reasonable. I mean, even probably want to pull the camera back more, to be honest with you. Like, if we... Is it alt-click? How do you select components again? Oh, alt-double-click. So we can probably, like, pull it all the way back to here, I would argue. And, like, this feels like a pretty much like proper, maybe even a little bit on the slow side now. Huh, this is actually interesting. It automatically normalizes your inputs. So if you're walking diagonally, it does like automatically do the slowdown. Like, a lot of the times when you like program your own movement in games, what you have to be aware of is that if you're moving at a speed of 1 in X, at a speed of 1 in Y, and that's the wrong way around that I gave those axes. If you're moving at a speed of 1 in both, you're technically like moving faster altogether. But it seems like these inputs kind of just like when you press both of them, your diagonal speed is just 1. Built in. I wasn't quite aware of that. Makes sense, right? Because with a 3D engine, that becomes significantly more important even than in a 2D game. But I didn't really ever notice that being a thing until I'm now seeing this in 2D. So yeah, we have our character moving around in Unreal Engine, and I mean, there is certainly a little bit of slidiness to his movement, but oh, and actually, now that we have it based on the last inputs, it also sticks with the proper idle pose as well. I think it might have been not doing that properly before either, because it was based on velocity. So that would, like, when you are idle, would have picked the right one. I don't think so. So that's immediately fixed before I realized that there was a problem. I'm going to go now, because it's been a while and it's pretty late now. So I will post this in the description probably tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to have like any energy left to be doing anything right now, but I will push this to a new Git repository, separate from the one that I had for the Godot project. So that all this progress you can keep up with if you want to, and you can download it and whatever. Upside to doing like a 2D pixel art game is that it is very easy to just host on GitHub, because you don't get like LFS related bullshit. So I'll be back on Thursday with hopefully not a stream of this length, but we'll probably get started on like the card system with like UMG and stuff with like widgets. Which is going to be a bunch faster to make than how I did it in Godot. So that's going to be fun. I'll see you all back then. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tolerating me for like 4 hours. And see you later.